Have you ever wanted to eat the best chocolate chip cookie, but never knew how to make a delicious batch? Hi, I'm Kelsey Pavelic, and today I will demonstrate how to make a delicious batch of chocolate chip cookies from scratch. But before we get down with the dough, let's discuss the history of the chocolate chip cookie. Believe it or not, before the 1930s, there was no such thing as a chocolate chip cookie. Ruth Wakefield was baking chocolate cookies when she realized she was out of baker's chocolate, which is a bar of chocolate that is blended into the mix. So she needed to improvise. Instead, she used broken up pieces of chocolate, which accidentally led to the formation of the first batch of chocolate chip cookies. So to get the cookie crumbling, let's discuss the process of how to make tummy rumbling chocolate chip cookies from scratch. To begin any recipe, you need to be double check to make sure you have all the necessary ingredients to bake the recipe. And if not, just make a quick run down to your local grocery store to pick up those missing ingredients. After being sure you have all the ingredients, be sure you have all the necessary baking equipment to perfect the process of baking cookies. Let me assure you, this recipe is super easy that anyone can do it. The total preparation time is around 45 minutes. It takes around 30 minutes to prepare all the necessary ingredients and about 15 minutes to bake the cookies. This recipe bakes about 2 dozen mouth-watering chocolate chip cookies. So let's discuss all the necessary ingredients and baking equipment. First, you'll need 2 sticks or about 1 cup of unsalted softened butter. And then you will need 1 cup of light brown sugar, 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, 2 large eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and last 2 cups of Hershey's milk chocolate chips. And now here are all the baking equipment needed for this recipe. You'll need a measuring cup, the necessary measuring spoons, a large mixing bowl, 2 smaller mixing bowls, a whisk, spatula, mixing utensils, decorative dish to put your finished product in, parchment paper, which will go on top of your cookie sheet, and last but not least, a timer. Let's get to baking. Step 1, wash your hands. Go over here and preheat the oven to 350 degrees for our cookies. And then next, I'm going to lay the parchment paper out on top of the cookie sheet. Step 2, we are going to soften 2 sticks or about 1 cup of our butter. You can soften it whichever way you like. I like softening mine in the microwave, and it takes about 30 seconds or until they are soft. So I'm just going to get my bowl and dunk all my 2 sticks of butter. Now that all the butter is cutely put into the bowl, I'm going to put it into the microwave for 30 seconds or until soft. While that is softening, I'm going to do 1 cup of light brown sugar into the measuring cup. This is about 1 cup of light brown sugar. Looks like our butter is softened. And then after the light brown sugar, we're going to add 1/3 cup of granulated sugar into our mix. 1/3. And now that that's in there, we're going to add our softened butter into our sugars. We're going to mix this for about 3 minutes or until yellow and light and fluffy. After 3 minutes, your mixture will look like this. It is yellow, light, and fluffy. So after that is done, it's ready. It's time to get your 2 large eggs, and what we're going to do is we're going to crack them in a separate bowl. That way, if any eggshells fall off of the eggs, they don't enter. There's that, and then before we start mixing again, we are going to add 2 teaspoons of our vanilla extract, So this is actually half a teaspoon, so it'll be 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like we're almost done. And mix this blend together. Step 3. This is what your mixture will look like after the eggs and vanilla extract are blended into the mixture. We're going to set that aside for a few minutes, and we're going to mix together our dry ingredients. First, in a separate bowl, we're going to take our all-purpose flour and measure out 2½ cups. And then after that is done, we are going to take our teaspoon and measure out 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1. Again, this is a half a teaspoon, so it's going to take 2. And then 1 teaspoon of our baking soda, 1, 2, and then 3/4 teaspoon of our salt. Just pour this over this. That's about 3/4. And now after all of that is done, I'm going to whisk together these dry ingredients. And then once these are nicely blended, I'm going to put the dry ingredients into our wet ingredients, I guess you could call them. And then we're going to mix this nicely together until well blended. While I'm mixing this, I will get ready to put in our chocolate chips. So we're almost done. Now that our wet ingredients and dry ingredients is well mixed together, it is time to add in our Hershey's milk chocolate chips. We are adding in 2 cups of our chocolate chips into our mixture. Look good. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that these are well mixed. And then after this is done, it's time to put our cookies onto the cookie sheet. After the chocolate chips are well mixed into our mixture, it's time to put them onto our cookie sheet. So what we're going to do is about 2 tablespoons or about a handful of the dough, roll it into a ball, and then place it onto our cookie sheet. Each cookie is going to be about 2 inches apart. That way. Done. So be right back. Step 4. Now that all the cookies are laid out onto our cookie sheet, it is time to put them into our 350-degree oven for about 12 to 14 minutes or until the edges are light brown. So I'll just add these into the oven for about 13 or so minutes. Now that the cookies have cooked for about 15 minutes, I took them out of the oven and let them set for about 8 minutes so they could cool off. Now we're going to transfer the cookies onto our decorative dish. All of these are transferred onto our decorative dish. Leads us up to step 5. Eat and enjoy your homemade chocolate chip cookies. I prefer my chocolate chip cookies with a nice cold glass of chocolate milk. This baking experience could not have been done without the recipe I received from the cooking channel that Kelsey Nixon provided on their website. This recipe is by far the easiest and most tasteful batch of chocolate chip cookies I have ever made. I highly recommend this recipe to beginner bakers or maybe even 5-star chefs. Always remember, when baking in general, always watch the timer and the product itself to make sure you do not undercook it or overcook it. Other than that, have fun baking and don't be afraid to branch out. You can add different things to your cookies such as walnuts or toffee bits. Let's all thank Ruth Wakefield for accidentally inventing the chocolate chip cookie. Thank you for watching my demonstration on how to bake chocolate chip cookies. These cookies turned out great.